Hello everyone. In this series of videos, we will be looking at the origins of certain monsters, the different variations they've received over the years, and how their movesets and attacks have evolved throughout each game. Remember to like and subscribe for more. Rajang was introduced in Monster Hunter 2, being one of 3 fanged beast monkeys, with the others being Kongolala and Blangonga. In terms of difficulty, the other 2 range from easy to medium, while Rajang has a reputation for being one of the hardest fights in the entire series. In Monster Hunter 2, he is no longer officially fightable, as he was only available online and cannot be accessed without hacking. Luckily, there aren't many notable differences between him in that game and Freedom Unite. Rajang has several strong attacks with surprising speed. He can punch left and right extremely fast while advancing on the hunter, ending the attack by slamming his fists into the ground, causing tremors. He can perform a separate slam attack with a heavy wind-up but even larger tremors. He can also rush hunters with a horn uppercut and spin on the ground, swinging his body. Rajang often repositions by hopping around, and each hop will actually deal damage if he comes into contact with you. Arguably, his most iconic attacks are his lightning based ones. He can fire a lightning ball or a full-on lightning laser. Both attacks are quick to initiate, but if he misses you with the laser, it can make for a fantastic heal or attack opportunity. He can also leap into the air and shoot a lightning ball downwards. When enraged, Rajang's fur turns golden and he stands up and roars. The roar does not stun or damage you, but it does knock you back at close range. Rajang gains a few new attacks and his existing ones become stronger. He can now leap into the air and dive down, homing in on hunters while spinning through the air. Overall, his attacks are much faster and there's less wind-up, which makes him tougher to deal with. By breaking his tail, however, you can permanently stop him from entering this mode. Monster Hunter Freedom Unite introduces the Furious Rajang, a variant that is permanently golden and thus permanently enraged. Good luck trying to knock him out of it, as you cannot break Furious Rajang's tail because it is already broken. Not only is he much stronger, possessing all the traits of an already enraged Rajang, but Furious can enter his own rage state. When that happens, his fur stands up and electricity crackles around him. The damage of his attacks becomes heavily inflated, making him one of the toughest fights in the entire game. Despite this, both he and the normal Rajang have some weaknesses. Every attack has major downtime, allowing you to stop and heal, and they have major weak points all over their bodies. Rajang can kill you, but you can kill him just as easily, provided you can get around his swift and strong attacks. Rajang was absent from the 3rd generation, but made a return for Monster Hunter 4, gaining some new changes and reworks. He can now slightly adjust his fist slam, moving to the left or the right to try and get to you. He has a new pin attack where he grabs you and shakes you around, before tossing you away. In this game, he gains an attack that became fairly iconic for 4th generation players. He digs into the ground and picks up a giant rock. From there, he tosses it at you. The rock's size depends on the quest rank. In G rank, whenever he performs his spinning dive bomb, he will now bounce twice, homing in on you each time. Rajang gains a new ability in this game, Armor Mode. When enraged, his arms become red, increasing his attack power and deflecting all weapons, making it harder for hunters to attack. A special property of these charged arms is that if Rajang punches you and you fly into a wall, you are guaranteed to be stunned. When Rajang enters his rage mode, it will no longer knock you back, but entering the armor mode stuns you just like any roar. Rajang can only use the armor mode when enraged, but that means Furious Rajang, who also made his return, can use it whenever he wants. Furious is overall much faster in this game, especially when enraged. Rajang can be infected by the Frenzy virus and overcome it, becoming the Apex Rajang. In this state, the power and speed of his attacks heavily increase, and attacking anything but his head, arms or tail will cause your weapon to deflect unless you use a special item. He can become enraged even if his tail is broken. He has some new attacks, particularly rushing towards you with a pin attack or throwing extra large boulders. Rajang and Furious returned to Generations and Ultimate, and they were fairly unchanged in the expansion. In the base game however, Rajang seemed to fight quite a bit differently, favouring hops to get around. Rajang was the first title update for Monster Hunter World Iceborne. He receives a redesign of sorts, with an altered face and different belly. He was fightable not only post-launch, but post-game too, so he was made to be harder than ever before. Monster Hunter World is a very different game. Hunters are much more mobile and have more options than ever at their disposal, so Rajang and Iceborne matches their speed. He is incredibly fast in this game. His attacks have very little downtime between them, and he gains new attacks to help close the distance between him and hunters. For example, he can leap forward with a punch, knocking you on the ground, leaving you at the mercy of his next attack. This attack is so fast that it can be hard to react to. He also cannot bounce multiple times like in 4 Ultimate. Instead, he bounces a single time and then lands to face you. He also has a new pin attack where he shakes you around, throws you on the ground and winds up for a big punch. If you mash hard enough, you can break free to avoid it. Rajang's hit zones have become altered, so he does not take as much damage as before. Like the other games, he can become enraged, but severing his tail will no longer fully disable it. Dealing enough damage however will temporarily revert him to normal, but this can only be done when Rajang's arms are red, a state now officially known as the Rampage mode. When Rajang enters Rampage mode, he knocks you back, just like when he would enter Rage mode in the older games. In this state, he can perform a new attack where he punches the ground twice before initiating a third punch that tracks the hunter. He can no longer perform his rock launch, instead he lifts them up from the ground around him. He also has a finisher attack of sorts where he leaps into the air before slamming his fist into the ground, dealing tremors and heavy damage to anyone caught in the vicinity. Rajang has specific ways of countering the hunter in Iceborne. If you knock him down and he is close to a wall, he will grab onto you and rebound, denying you the knockdown and continuing the fight. Canonically, his head is far too small for the clutch claw to latch onto, and so you cannot tenderize it. You can still perform flinch shots by grabbing onto his arms, but be careful, because if Rajang initiates his rapid punch flurry while you're latched on, he will instead grab you and pin you down. These changes make Rajang incredibly hard, and he hurts players who go in expecting a standard fight. So when Furious Rajang was added in a later update, he really took things to the next level. Furious has all of Rajang's changes and is exclusive to event quests. While Rajang can shoot a single lightning ball at close range while leaping into the air, Furious can shoot multiple at a long distance and they explode after landing. He can also perform a punching tumble that helps him reposition for another attack. When in Rampage mode, he has a new attack where he slams his fists down, sending lightning shooting through the ground and exploding. He also has 2 new pins. When in normal mode, he grabs the hunter, slams them into the ground a few times before leaping into the air and slamming them down. But in Rampage mode, he grabs the hunter, slams them a couple of times, lasers them, leaps into the air with them, slams them into the ground before unleashing a giant roar. Once again, his tail is already severed, so there is no way of knocking him out of his rage state. His Rampage mode can be cancelled however, by dealing enough damage to his head, which when dealing with rampaging Furious Rajang is easier said than done. Rajang also has a different counter for when he is knocked down next to a wall. Instead of rebounding, he fires a sweeping laser. Regrettably, I couldn't get footage of this. Rajang returned for Monster Hunter Rise. Unlike Iceborne, Rise Rajang is in the game from the start, can be encountered relatively early in high rank as an invader, and of course is high rank exclusive. So naturally, he is not nearly as fast or hard as he was in Iceborne. Rise Rajang is missing the clutch claw and the wall knockdown counters. He has much more downtime in between each attack, and when he chains them together, he usually taunts right afterwards. He isn't nearly as fast as he is in Iceborne, but still has most of that version's attacks. His hit zones have been reverted, so they now take damage like in the older games. My favourite Rajang is the Iceborne version. I quite liked him in 4 Ultimate, and Apex Rajang will forever be infamous as one of the toughest monsters in the series, but Monster Hunter World's moveset heavily benefits the pace of the fight. When I first fought Iceborne Rajang, I thought he was too fast and I hated him. That is until I made a video about Rajang, and started having a lot of fun when recording. Forcing myself to match his speed was quite exhilarating, and made the fight really fun. That Rajang video is one of my most popular. In the video, I state how the changes made to Rajang and Rise, combined with the game's various movement options, made him the easiest Rajang to date. I still believe this is the case, and I recommend you watch that video to see the reasoning. Despite this, Rise Rajang is still very enjoyable, and still challenging for newcomers. Which Rajang is your favourite? Be sure to let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching this video. Remember to like and subscribe, and check out some of my other videos too. Have a good day.